Welcome all. Thank you for tuning in to Cedarly Radio, your guide to films playing at the Art House for the week of December 6th to December 12th. I'm your host, Aaron Spears.
And I'm Dave Huffman, Director of Marketing for Cleveland Cinemas. On this week's episode, we'll be discussing Dark Water, Waves, and A Million Little Pieces.
Before we jump into the show, we always like to kick off things with our Movie of the Week recommendation of a movie you should, I guess, at least be thinking about watching this week because we are recommending it. Dave, what's your movie of the week for this week?
Mine is the wildly entertaining Knives Out. I actually went to see it twice over the holiday break. It's the only movie I went to see in the theater, and I saw the same movie 2 times, if that tells you how much I enjoyed it. I had planned on seeing a different movie the second time, but the friend I was going with was basically the only thing he really wanted to see was Knives Out.
Right.
I'm like, absolutely, I would gladly watch it again. It's a very smart, very fun, entertaining movie. I really enjoyed it, and I think the fact that it opened up so well and kind of exceeded everybody else's expectations as far as the industry goes shows that audiences were anxious to see something that wasn't a sequel or wasn't, you know, a property that they'd already been familiar with. It was all new characters doing, fun things. It was sort of like a throwback to old school whodunit mysteries, but just really smartly done, and I highly recommend it. It's a great cast. Everyone's having a lot of fun on it.
I'll say I'm curious the way you worded it because I was reading the same articles. I think of like what a surprise hit, or like it exceeded expectations. Like, did you not see the cast? And like it's a like Ryan Johnson is not like the director of Brick anymore. I mean, he's
he's. But I generally used to have a rule that was like if you see too many name actors in a movie, that's usually a problem.
You have mentioned that before,
unless it's a Woody Allen movie or a Robert Altman movie where everybody wants to work with these amazing directors, and maybe he's one of them now. You know, it usually means the script isn't very good, so we're going to put a lot of stars in it, and that's going to be what sells the movie. Yeah. Not so much the movie itself, but the cast is going to sell it.
Right.
But this is just a perfectly cast movie with a lot of, great, talented people in it. And, some of them are big stars. Obviously, you've got, Daniel Craig, James Bond, and you've got Captain America in there.
Right.
And all these other people that are kind of iconic franchise actors now. But you've got fantastic performances by Don Johnson. I think Don Johnson in some ways was my favorite part of the whole movie.
Really?
I just thought he was really entertaining.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed it. So I would recommend it. Go check it out.
There were a few articles kind of talking about the holiday weekend box office, and obviously Frozen 2 is its own industry
its own
in and of
juggernaut.
itself.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
But a couple of the headlines I saw were like, about relating to Knives Out, Ford versus Ferrari, Queen and Slim was number 4, Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood to a certain extent, that like these aren't franchise properties. These aren't,
right,
like you said, these aren't sequels, reboots. They're not connected to an old TV show. These are just, based on a true story in Ford versus Ferrari case, but original movies that have not based on pre-existing properties, which is always good to see when audiences respond to that as well, because they're like, yeah, give me something new.
Yep, absolutely. And what about you, Aaron? What did you check out this week?
Okay, so I have mentioned before on the show, as have you, the idea of when you watch a foreign film, you don't have to watch just the awards bait movies from that country. Like there's, action movies, romantic comedies, there's all the genres from other countries that doesn't have to be the greatest film of the year, but other countries make just fun genre movies. And my current favorite, I think I've mentioned a few times on the show now, are Indian and Chinese action films.
Yes.
Because I think India's just taken over the action genre for me from Hollywood. And such is the case with this week's pick. I watched the movie War from this year, 2019. It's on Amazon if anybody wants to stream it. It's a mix of like Atomic Blonde, because there's like this crazy like 6-8 minute one-shot choreographed fight sequence right at the start of the movie. It one-ups Mission Impossible. It one-ups like Face Off, John Woo level action.
Yeah.
There's a shootout that is right out of John Wick movie where it's like a gun ballet of crazy sniper type accuracy between these two guys. It's a lot of fun, and it's got amazing dance sequences in it as well.
I was going to say, and there's also great music in it.
100%,
because I'm sure it's a Bollywood, like genre busting, super fun time.
I watched it with a friend. She was like, this is like a Beyonce level of talent in this movie. And I was like, wait, what? Because both the guys that are in it, Hrithik Roshan and Tiger Shroff, who's been in a couple other action movies I've seen from India. Actually, he's in the Indian reboot of Rambo coming up next year, playing Rambo. They're doing all the stunts, and there's a lot of like martial arts in it, but there's also just a lot of crazy action sequences. At one time, this guy's got these magnetic grippers on his hands, and he's on the outside of a plane flying over the Alps, trying to get into the plane. It's nuts. But then in the next scene, they're singing and dancing, and they've got amazing choreography and dance sequences. You're like, oh yeah, that it is a Beyonce level.
So it stars Hrithik Roshan. Is that how his name is?
Hrithik Roshan,
that's the guy. Yeah, that's the man that has the double thumbs on his one hand.
Wait, what?
Yes, he has. He has double thumbs on. He has 6 fingers on one hand. Yeah.
Wow. No, I didn't notice. I was too distracted by how ripped and gorgeous he is in the movie to look at his hands at all, I guess.
Yeah, no, we played one of his movies. I think it was the remake of that terrible Tom Cruise movie with Cameron Diaz called Night and Day. And as I was watching it, I can't remember. I think it was called like Boom Boom or something. I can't even remember the name of or Bang Bang. That's what it was. I think, the Hindi remake of it. And as I was watching it, I just kept being distracted by something. I'm like, is there something on his hand? Like, because it wasn't like prominent,
right?
But they weren't like completely hiding it. But I just kept noticing something,
yeah.
And then I just kept focused on it. And then as soon as the movie was over, I had to like Google him, and I'm like, yep, he's got 2 thumbs on one hand, and I sort of felt like he's like this just almost genetically perfect person. Like he's crazy ripped, he's very handsome.
Yeah.
So I feel like it was sort of like the universe's way of saying, well, you can't be that perfect. No one can be as perfect as you.
Yeah.
You're gonna have 6 fingers on one hand.
Here's a thumb.
An extra one. A bonus thumb.
Right.
But I love the fact that he is a massive star over in India.
Oh, it's huge,
whereas no one in America, if you had such a kind of, I don't want to say like disfigurement, whatever, you know what I mean? If you had this weird kind of non-traditional hand, shall we say, would you become that level of star in the U.S.? I don't think.
Well, there's the Megan Fox toe thumb situation going on. So it's
I forgot about that.
Maybe she have to be so overtly attractive on the opposite end that yeah,
everything else has to balance out.
Well, in this one, it's like they're 2 RAW agents, which is like India's version of like CIA. Right. They're elite forces, Mission Impossible, MI, whatever. And so like, he's got like, I'm trying to picture like the scenes now. He has usually like gloves on, or it's just such fast-paced action that you didn't
there's
notice. Just no time to notice. Like if it was romantic comedy where which it should be. I mean, they're clearly in love with each other, these 2 guys, and they just don't actually hook up at any point in the movie, which is unfortunate because they're clearly just absolutely in love with each other. There's slow motion shots where they're gazing into each other's eyes, and then they're like, it just cuts right before you should have kissed. And
that's awesome.
They would have been a great spy power couple, but alas, they didn't make that movie. But
it's not in India. You don't make that movie in India.
You don't make that movie in India. The conventions are great though because it's a full Bollywood production, but the musical numbers are, I'm gonna say like they're the instigation for the musical number. Like the first one is when Tiger's character makes the team. So like
Gotcha.
Roshan's like, you're on the team, buddy, and he's just so overcome with joy that they have this crazy elaborate rave dance number on the side of a mountain in this temple, and it's amazing. And then it goes right back to the story. But it just shows off this level of talent where, like, not only are they amazing, choreographers and they're charismatic stars, and I would say acting-ish because it's just kind of a shoot-'em-up worldwide action movie. But then the dance numbers start up, and you're like, oh my god, like you guys can do everything. That's the hence the Beyonce comparison. So
there you go.
But it's one of those that it's just a crazy. If you like crazy, elaborate set-piece action movies, you should be watching a lot more Indian films, but particularly war, I would say.
Well, I will absolutely be checking that one out. Well, before we start talking about the new movies this week, I want to give a quick little mention to our holiday gift card promotion that we have going on here at the Cedar Lee and all other Cleveland Cinemas locations. And that is, if you buy a $25 gift card, you will get a $5 certificate that is valid for admission or concessions at the beginning of the year. So it's like getting $5 free when you spend $25 on gift cards. So if you have anyone on your holiday list that is a movie fan, and pretty much everybody loves movies, Cleveland Cinemas gift card is really the perfect gift for whoever, whenever, or whatever you're celebrating.
That $5 coupon or not coupon, but the $5 thing, it's like the savings bonds my grandparents used to give me, where it doesn't work right now when you get it, but once January gets here, then it becomes $5.
And then in January, whenever all the big Oscar movies and the awards contenders
Yep.
and all those things are finally opening up, you've got a great reason to come back and see them here at the Cedar Lee. And this week, we want to talk about the movies that we're opening. We are opening up the new film by Todd Haynes, which is Dark Water. This is inspired by a shocking true story about a tenacious attorney played by Mark Ruffalo, who uncovers a dark secret that connects a growing number of unexplained deaths due to one of the world's largest corporations. In the process, he risks everything, his future, his family, and his own life to expose the truth.
Your grandma tells me her grandson's some fancy environment lawyer down in Cincinnati.
I am a corporate defense attorney.
So?
I defend chemical companies.
Well, now you can defend me.
How many did you lose?
190.
190 cows.
You tell me nothing's wrong here.
It's a small matter for a family friend. Help a guy who needs it.
The farmer or you? That's chemicals, I'm telling you.
I'm seeing documents I don't understand. They're hiding something. That chemical. What if you drank it?
Drank it? It's like saying, what if I swallowed a tire?
What if whatever's killing those cows is in the drinking water?
At DuPont, better living through chemistry. It's our DNA.
You need to tell me what in the hell's going on.
DuPont is knowingly poisoning 70,000 local residents for the last 40 years. You knew, still you did nothing.
I can't remember who it was, but one of the critics I follow on Twitter, when he or she saw Dark Water, put up a great post that it's another great addition in the Mark Ruffalo They knew, and they did nothing to stop it franchise of films, which is growing now in the Ruffalo cinematic universe.
And he is just personally very much an activist personality,
Yeah.
like very much a lefty kind of person.
Well, like specifically like environmental
online
causes too.
Yeah, environmental causes too. So he is. I'm sure that's why he wanted to make this film, and I don't know if he was one of the big driving forces behind it to get made. We were discussing off mic that it sort of is an interesting choice for Todd Haynes. It kind of almost sticks out a little bit. It's almost a little. I don't know. It almost to me that when I watched that trailer, it just seemed like anybody could have made this movie, like it's a director for hire kind of movie. But the fact that it's Todd Haynes makes me really want to see it more because he is such an amazing filmmaker. From his very first film, which was a short film called Superstar, the Karen Carpenter story, which was a biopic using Barbie dolls to tell the Karen Carpenter story, which is still, I don't know if you can legally see it because the Karen Carpenter and Richard Carpenter's estate kind of put the kibosh on it because of the use of the music, and he just didn't really like how they were all depicted.
I'd say it's not an authorized biography by any means.
No, it's not. No, but it's a great movie, and he's done some really cool things. And I've met him; he's a very nice man. And Carol was one of my favorite movies from a couple years ago, so I'm very anxious to see it. And we just showed his last movie was, I think, Wonderstruck was after Carol, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
So I think all of his films now have probably played at the Cedar Lee because he's just one of our resident directors.
Right. Which I had the same reaction seeing the trailer for this one. It felt like a throwback movie to remember like in the 90s when like Civil Action and The Rainmaker, or maybe it was even early 2000s. There was like a lot of legal thrillers that were exposing, horrible, corrupt corporations that were slowly poisoning the population. So it seemed a little, I was like, oh, that's Todd Haynes. But I've also thought that on several Todd Haynes movies now. Like Poison is a very avant-garde kind of art film.
Very much
and
so.
then Safe has some of those touches to it, but inherently at its core, the story is, I was like, oh, yeah, that's interesting. But then Velvet Goldmine came out, and I was like, all right, that sort of makes sense. Then he follows it up with Far From Heaven, this Douglas Sirk kind of old school Hollywood thing. We're like, wait, what? You're going that direction? And it was amazing. And then the Bob Dylan one, and then like you said with Carol, Wonderstruck. So like he actually is pretty good at throwing his fans curveballs in the movies that he selects over the years.
Do you think this is sort of the companion film to Safe? To be like her paranoia wasn't paranoia.
It was all true.
It is real. You have a right to be concerned.
They knew and they did nothing since the 90s. It's I don't know. Yeah, it's a good question. Or if it's just one of those, maybe like you said, Mark Ruffalo. I mean, this is wild speculation territory now. But like if Mark Ruffalo, being the activist that he is, and he has been a producer on some of his movies as well. Maybe just like Haynes really wanted to work with Mark Ruffalo, or. Maybe. Who knows how those circles work in Hollywood sometimes. But yeah, it had Also, as we'll mention here in a little bit, one of the producers on this one is Christine Vachon, who's been around, like she's a defining American independent film producer since the
Truly.
90s, 80s? When did she start off?
I think it would be the very
end of the
80s. Or the very beginning of the 90s. Yeah, the late
we'll say
80s
at
or
minimum
early
3
90s,
decades of American independent producing work, and she's been there from the beginning with Todd Haynes. I believe I don't know if she was there on Poison, but at least on Safe, she was there as a producer. So another film in a long line of a illustrious producing career for her. And the second film we're opening up is, it's just that season. They're all much anticipated, very well reviewed movies that are potentially some of the best of the year coming your way.
Mm-hmm.
This one is Waves from writer, director, and editor Trey Edward Schulz. This traces the journey of a suburban family led by a well-intentioned but domineering father as they navigate love, forgiveness, and coming together in the aftermath of a loss.
Love is patient. Love is kind. Love is not rude. It doesn't boast. Love also forgets wrong.
I will always love you how I do.
It's been hard, hasn't it?
Let go of a prayer for you.
How you doing with everything?
I'm good. Just a sweet word.
You know it's okay if you're not.
The table is prepared for you.
I'm trying to give you the tools to succeed in this world. It's not easy out there. Everything I do is for y'all. Everything.
I know you're under a lot of pressure right now, but I'm just getting really scared.
But you'll have this place to call home.
Everything's gonna be okay, all right?
Always.
We're in this together.
So again, like a not more recent staple, I would say, because Trey Edward Schulz came on the scene with Krisha in 2015, which she played at Cedar, and was very well reviewed. Not as well seen, I would say, in theaters.
No, it was one of those movies that was on a lot of people's top 10 lists and played at the film festival as well, but it was one of those movies that people just missed. It was a really great little drama. I really liked it a lot. And Waves played at the Toronto International Film Festival, and I remember whenever when I interviewed John Foreman, our boss here, he specifically singled that out as one of his favorite movies that he saw at the festival. So this is a movie that he has been anxious to bring here to the Cedar Lee, so we finally are going to be opening it here on the 6th.
Well, speaking of, like we were saying with Todd Haynes and like how he's choosing the movies, like Krishna's very kind of intimate personal portrait kind of a film, and then he followed up with It Comes at Night in 2017, which was an interesting different style of filmmaking too, which I thought he just knocked out of the park. That one was really amazing.
That was a great movie that a lot of people, I think, were expecting a more traditional horror movie or something from it, and
you're right.
It was so I think a lot of audiences felt a little bait and switch, but if you just watch that movie for what it is, it's a great movie. So yeah,
I did hear that from friends who caught it in the theater. I didn't catch that one till video, but at that point I was like, I don't really care what he does. Like Krishna's so good that it was like I just want to see whatever he's doing. Right. And him doing a traditional horror film, I'm interested in that. But I think what he did with It Comes at Night was way more interesting.
Truly.
He's also one of those, like we mentioned with Eggers when we were talking about The Lighthouse, how as starting off, he's only a few movies into his filmmaking career, but is constantly working with the same creative folks behind the scenes too. Trey Edward Schulz has worked with Drew Daniels as director of photography for now his third film. So like they clearly have a really great working relationship together. And just being an old school Nine Inch Nails fan, I had to mention that Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross did the score for Waves as well.
There you go.
Continuing their amazing work doing movie and television scores recently. So keep an ear out for that as you're watching Waves.
The final film that we're opening this week at the Cedar Lee is A Million Little Pieces. This is going to be playing for just 1 week only. This is a one week only engagement, so if you want to see it, make sure you see it before Thursday. And it is directed and co-written by Sam Taylor Johnson, co-written with her husband, Aaron Taylor Johnson, who stars in the film. And it is also written by and based on the book by James Frey, who is, of course, a Cleveland native. And this is a story about a young aspiring writer at the bottom of his addictions. He is interned in a facility to help face his traumatic past.
This goes in that list of like controversial books, right?
Yeah, this was the one that people will remember because it was originally put out whether intentionally or as kind of coyly as a memoir, but then it turned out it was not a memoir. He had to admit that it was a work of fiction, and I believe it was Oprah had picked it as one of her book club books, and then he had to go on there and kind of apologize that he misled everybody, that it was not a memoir, that it was just a work of fiction.
Right.
So the work, even though it's apparently a great book, was a little tainted from some of that controversy.
Yeah.
But now it's been adapted into a film, which Sam Taylor Johnson and Aaron Taylor Johnson are this kind of cinematic power couple in a way for like indies now, I guess. They've been working on a few films together.
Yeah.
And I love Aaron Taylor Johnson ever since Kick-Ass. I think he's just fantastic. So I'm anxious to see this, where he gets to play. This is another similar to like last year we had why can't I think of the name of the two movies? The Julia Roberts movie and the Steve Carell movie. Why am I blanking on both of the movies about the drug addiction and the kids dealing with their addiction?
Oh, Beautiful Boy.
Beautiful Boy and
Ben is Back.
Ben is Back. Thank you.
Yes.
Now I could remember.
I just like
the
waiting
stars
for
and
you
the
to
plot.
struggle for a few moments before I jump in with the title.
my brain sometimes just like it's half information is floating around in there.
Hey, you imparted the
it's
wisdom
like
of an extra thumb. You're good for the rest of the episode.
But yeah, I can remember weird, Bollywood trivia, but I can't remember the names of major films that we played at the Cedar Lee. And anyway, so this is last year there was kind of, I don't want to say glut, but there was a couple of movies with a similar kind of theme. This year, this time of year, we have The One, and it's A Million Little Pieces. So if you are interested in seeing that, check it out.
Well, I'm curious how they're going to handle it too, because it's a known story now that is what he did like around the book. So is it just like going to be a true adaptation, or are they going to feel the need to actually comment on what kind of went on outside of the pages of this book as well?
I think it's just I think it's just the story. That's how I understand it. I haven't seen it yet, but I've just watching the trailer. That's what I would glean.
I mean,
from
it's a compelling read. I just thought it was a memoir when I read it. So
yeah. Oh, I haven't read the book, but you're a much more avid reader than I am, so I'm not surprised that you've read that as well. Well,
it was one of those inescapable ones back when it came out. So it was around.
True. It was. I was very well aware of it. I didn't read it. And then there's one other film I just want to give a quick little shout out to that is not playing here at the Cedar Lee, but it is going to be playing at Tower City for a week. It's called I See You, and it was filmed here around the Cleveland area, and it played at the film festival this last year. It stars Helen Hunt. It's a good little thriller, so if you're interested in checking that out, that's going to be playing for a week at Tower City, and it's called I See You.
And we'll be right back with the numerous special events we have coming up for you this week at the theater. Well, special events are a bigger and bigger portion of the modern theatrical programming and the landscape, and the Cedar Lee is no exception to that. So we want to take a little time here to let you know about a few special events, actually several special events we have coming up this week.
The first one is a special holiday encore presentation of the Met Opera's The Magic Flute. This is a production from a few years ago. They're bringing it back for the holiday time, and that is going to be playing Saturday, December 7th at 12:55 p.m.
Speaking of encore presentations, I would say, was it about a year ago, Fathom Events first brought out They Shall Not Grow Old in 3D, the Peter Jackson documentary. So it is back now. And it is playing in 3D on Saturday, December 7th at 4 p.m. In case you haven't been listening to this podcast for the past year and are unaware of They Shall Not Grow Old in 3D, this is Peter Jackson's World War I documentary that I cannot imagine won't get nominated at the Oscars, coming up here shortly, which I'm guessing is probably why it's being re-released, because it wasn't in contention for last year's Academy Awards. He went through and painstakingly recreated like the colors, the sounds, and added, obviously the dimension to it to make it 3D, and restoring all this World War I footage. It's just like watching the greatest museum exhibit on World War I you could possibly watch on the big screen in 3D the way the director intended it to be.
Yeah, it's an amazing movie. And then we have our annual show of The Big Lebowski as part of the Melt Barn Grilled Late Shift, and that is going to be playing Saturday, December 7th at 9:30 p.m. at midnight, and then Sunday, December 8th at 7 p.m. And of course, we will have White Russians available at the concession stand.
Also that same night, the monthly showings of the Rocky Horror Picture Show, also part of the Melt Barn Grilled Late Shift series, will be Saturday, December 7th. We'll say at 11:59 p.m. just to avoid a little confusion.
So it doesn't confuse people.
As always, featuring a live floor show from Simply His Servants.
And then a very special event, we're going to be showing Les Miserables, the staged concert. That's going to be Sunday, December 8th at 11 a.m., and then again on Wednesday, December 11th at 7 p.m. This is coinciding with its 35th triumphant year in the London's West End. Cameron McIntosh produced a spectacular sold-out stage concert version at the Gielgud Theatre, featuring an all-star cast including Michael Ball, Alfred Boe, and Carrie Hope Fletcher, Matt Lucas, and John Owen Jones.
Speaking of iconic musicals, Fathom Events and TCM are presenting Meet Me in St. Louis, one of the great Hollywood musicals ever produced.
I'm sorry, I have to stop you because you said St. Louis, and it's clearly Meet Me in St. Louis. Have you not heard the song?
I have.
I know, but it's spelled St. Louis. But in the movie, they say St. Louis.
It doesn't rhyme if I say Louis.
It doesn't. No. Meet me in St. Louis. Louis. No, it's not the song. No, it's Louis. Yeah, I love it.
Meet me, St. Louis. Anyway. Well, Meet Me in St. Louis will be playing Sunday, December 8th at 1 p.m. and Wednesday, December 11th at 7 p.m.
And then on Monday, December 9th at 7 p.m., we have another Fathom event, and this is a presentation of NXS Live Baby Live, or Live Baby Live. I've never been sure which one it is. I don't know which one it is. And I guess it could be both.
Live Baby Live?
Live Baby Live
or
Live Baby Live. I don't know. And it is the restored concert film from the original negative of the band's sold-out show at Wembley Stadium. So this was just shortly after the Live Aid concert that happened at Wembley, and like a week after they had just played there with Queen or something. This is like their own sold-out show to over 70,000 fans. So this is a classic concert from the 80s.
We also have National Theatre Live is presenting Hansard. The second show of this one is Correct. Tuesday, December 10th at 7 p.m.
And then we have another encore showing of a play that we had shown a couple years ago from the Branagh Theatre in England. We have The Winter's Tale. This is Shakespeare's classic tragic comedy starring Judi Dench and Kenneth Branagh, and that's going to be playing Thursday, December 12th at 7 p.m. The first shows we showed this a couple years ago were very popular, so they decided to bring it back.
If you're a regular listener and are wondering where our Cedarly 3 picks are for this week, follow the links in the show notes or head over to any of our social media accounts, where we posted our picks for Christine Vachon films. So we mentioned her briefly when we were discussing the new Todd Haynes film. She has over 100 producing credits throughout her career, and she is specifically and stayed focused in her career on American independent films. So we are going to go back and look through what's arguably sort of the golden age of independent films in the early to mid 1990s, and she has been champion of said films and that genre of film her entire career. So we're going to comb through her hundreds of produced independent American films and pick out our 3 favorites that we think really made a mark on the American independent film scene. Well, join us next week when, as of right now, we will be discussing The Kingmaker and The Two Popes. As always, thank you for tuning in to Cedarly Radio and lending us your ears this week. All the music heard on the show is original music written by Grant Heineman and performed by the New Heights Jazz Ensemble, used with their permission, of course. Visit clevelandcinemas.com for correct showtimes and to purchase advance tickets. Also, there are links in the show notes. You can use those if you'd like as well. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We are at Cedarly Theater, spelled with an R-E at the end because we're fancy like that. Don't forget to subscribe to the show wherever you find your podcast, and while you're subscribing, leave us a rating and review, or better yet, tell a fellow film geek about the show. We'll see you at the movies.